Here's what's coming up on the world today. Haiti's President Jovenel Moise is assassinated in his own home in the capital, Port-au-Prince. The Taliban is said to have entered the city of Kalaino in Bagues province as it continues rapid advancement before NATO troops' final withdrawal. Plus, Florida is saved from ELSA's rage as it drops to a tropical storm. Well, thanks to everyone for joining us at this half hour, and welcome from wherever in the world that you're watching us from. This is The World Today. I'm Joke Rogers. We begin with the developing story out of Haiti. The country is still reeling from the assassination of President Jovenel Moise at his home in the capital, Port-au-Prince. Interim Prime Minister Claude Joseph has declared a state of siege and called for calm, saying all measures have been taken to guarantee the continuity of the state.
Interim Prime Minister Claude Joseph's announcement to the nation came hours after the president's assassination at his home. Unidentified gunmen stormed the property at 1 a.m. local time. The First Lady Martine, who was with him at the time of the incident, was shot as well and remains in critical condition in hospital. The 53-year-old Moise had been in power since February 2017. His time in office was said to have been rocky as he faced accusations of corruption, and there were widespread demonstrations in the capital and other cities earlier this year. According to the opposition, Moise's 5-year term should have ended on February 7, 2021. 5 years of the day since his predecessor, Michel Martelly, stepped down. But there had been a year's delay to the elections after Martelly's departure, and Moise insisted that he had 1 more year to serve as he did not take office until February 2017. Parliamentary elections should have been held in October 2019, but disputes have delayed them, meaning that Moise had been ruling by decree. In February this year, on the day the opposition wanted him to leave office, Mr. Moise had said an attempt to kill him and overthrow the government had been foiled until now. News of the assassination has shocked leaders around the world, many of them taken to social media to express their thoughts. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson called the assassination an abhorrent act and called for calm. Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen offered condolences, and Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness said the world woke to the shocking and tragic news of Moise's death. Even leaders in Latin America expressed their shock. Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, said he was also shocked by the news.
We're shocked by the tragic news from Haiti and want to express our deepest condolences on the passing of President Jovenel Moise, to his family and friends, and to the whole nation, Haiti. Our condolences as well as to the people of Haiti at this terrible time.
In the meantime, the streets of the capital, Port-au-Prince, are empty, and neighboring Dominican Republic has ordered immediate closure of its border with Haiti.
Well, it's been a tough start to the week for Afghan forces left now to face the Taliban militants who continue to advance through the country, taking advantage of the departure of U.S. troops from the country. Reports say the Taliban have entered a key city in the west of the country and are now in the city of Kalaino, the provincial capital of Bagues province. One commander says the militants are moving towards the center of the city and there have been reported heavy fighting with government troops. The Taliban gains come as US, UK and allies withdraw after 20 years. The vast majority of the remaining foreign forces in Afghanistan have left ahead of an 11 September deadline, leaving the Afghan military in sole charge of the country. Meanwhile, Israeli forces have torn down Bedouin tents in a disputed village in the occupied West Bank as And a Palestinian official says 63 people were displaced from the area designated as a military firing range. The Palestinians and rights groups accuse Israel of trying to forcibly clear out the Bedouin who have returned to the site after past demolitions to make room for Jewish settlement expansion. Mu'taz Bashrat, an official in the Palestinian Authority that administers limited self-rule in the West Bank, said it was the 7th time Israeli authorities have destroyed tents and other structures in the village of Kibbutz Humsa. Israel has often cited a lack of building permits, which Palestinians and rights groups say are nearly impossible to obtain in destroying Palestinian structures in the West Bank, an area it captured in a 1967 war. Well, remember the container ship that blocked the Suez Canal in March, which has been detained there since? Well, it has begun its departure from the Great Bitter Lake, heading to the city of Port Said today, after the owner and insurance reached the compensation settlement with the Canal Authority. One of the world's largest container ships ever given became wedged diagonally across a single-lane stretch of the canal for 6 days, disrupting global trade. The Suez Canal Authority demanded more than $900 million in compensation for the salvage operation and other losses, later lowered to $550 million. It held the ship under court order as it pursued the claim, creating a dispute with the ship's insurers and Japanese owner. A ceremony was being held as the ship began its course north, marking the departure of the vessel loaded with about 18,300 containers. And so let's turn our attention to the much-expected storm ELSA, which weakened to a tropical storm as it hit Florida today. It had strengthened to a hurricane, the first in the season, on Tuesday night, along with the southwest of Tampa Bay.
As at this morning, ELSA was 60 miles west of Tampa, Florida, with maximum sustained winds of 70 miles per hour, according to the National Hurricane Center. ELSA also briefly strengthened to a hurricane last week when it killed at least 3 people, blew roofs off homes, toppled trees, and sparked flooding in Caribbean island nations east of Cuba. Video released by the National Weather Service showed heavy rain and strong winds as the storm moved past Key West, Florida on Tuesday morning. This morning, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said the tropical storm impacts on Florida had been less than expected. He said strengthened officials would continue to monitor the flooding. A hurricane watch had been put in effect from Egmont Key in the Tampa Bay region to the Steinhatchee River, some 180 miles north along the Gulf Coast west, with ELSA making landfall this morning.
Well, Challenge Television's Washington correspondent Maria Bird joins us now. Maria, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Right, so let's begin with a reaction out of the United States to the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse of Haiti. What has been the reaction of the Biden administration to what has happened so far?
The Biden administration has obviously sent their condolences. They reject any form of violence and assassination of the president. And so that is very clearly where the U.S. stands. There's expected to be a national security briefing later this afternoon for President Biden and the White House staff. And so that obviously will provide further details into the surrounding circumstances of this assassination. But obviously the U.S. condemns any form of assassination of a leader, and obviously in the way in which it was done. And so at this time, the U.S. will be collecting additional information to be able to really have a stance of where they will be able to support Haiti moving forward.
So interestingly, the United States and Haiti share such a history and are very interested in developments in either country. There was an attempted assassination, of course, on President Moise's life in February. Did that concern the American government at all, especially considering the circumstances surrounding Moise's ascent to power and the struggle by the opposition?
That obviously had some concern, and the State Department obviously was watching that to see what was going to transpire. And unfortunately, we see what has ended up in the assassination of the president. But we also know that the U.S. has been a strong supporter of Haiti moving forward with free and fair elections and organizing in a way that they are being able to promote that. And so the U.S. was going to be in support of the president staying in power until 2022, but was urging them to move forward with an election process when 2022 came around.
And so let's move over to Storm ELSA. Can we say Florida was spared the storm's wrath and may not have much recovery to be done now that it has passed?
Well, yes, we hope that there's not much recovery to. There's still strong winds, obviously, in the Florida area. The real area that obviously is being watched is that southern area where recently there was a building that collapsed. And so that obviously has put a hold to the rescue efforts there, and obviously wanting to ensure that the debris from that building does not create any further damage in the surrounding areas. But yes, definitely a hurricane such as Hurricane Andrew and many others that have hit the coast of the U.S., it will be far less damage than what we've seen in years past, and it will probably have rain going up and down the East Coast over the next couple of days, but hopefully we will see by the weekend that all the remnants of this storm are gone.
Right, and you spoke of the surf side now and the debris from that, the area. How is the search and rescue going on there to find the people that may still be stuck under there?
There's still close to 100 individuals that have not been found, and so those individuals are still being looked for. We must say that after the rest of the building was taken down, there has been a greater finding of individuals, and unfortunately these individuals have been found dead, and so it's still being called a search and rescue effort. Not sure when it will transition from that. But they are working day and day night. There's large lights out there to ensure they're able to see through the debris, and I'll be taking all cautions that they can just in case there are some individuals surviving.
Thanks again, Maria, for that update, and please do stay safe.
Thank you for having me.
Let's move on now. South Sudan is preparing to mark 10 years of independence this Friday. But the oil-rich nation erupted into civil war soon after securing independence from Sudan in 2011, leading to an estimated 400,000 deaths and one of the worst refugee crises on the continent. The under-resourced and unevenly interspersed services have existed before independence, and they have been further decimated by conflict and a lack of investment and maintenance. The UN's Children's Agency has warned that 4.5 million children in the country need urgent help to fight off malnutrition and opportunistic diseases.
We are actually going through the worst humanitarian crisis since independence 10 years ago. There is nothing between humanitarian assistance and no assistance. And that is why we are appealing to donors to really put South Sudan in a separate category where we don't cut, because any cuts, again, will result in immediate impact, because there is no, it is not a question of a weak government safety net. There is no safety net.
And we have more stories coming up on The World Today. Well, here's one for all chocolate lovers in Senegal as Belgian-Congolese chef Danuto Nganko opens the first artisan chocolate shop in the country. Welcome Back to the program. The shooting of 64-year-old Dutch reporter Peter de Vries has prompted shocked reactions across the Netherlands today and calls for press freedom, NGO Reporters Without Borders to do more to protect journalists. De Vries was shot on an Amsterdam street on Tuesday evening. He was taken to Amsterdam UMC Hospital, where Mayor Femke Halsema said that he was fighting for his life. His son, Royce de Vries, said on social media, "Our worst nightmare came true yesterday. We as a family are surrounding Peter with love and hope during these hard times. Much is uncertain," he said, giving thanks for the outpouring of public support. Police have arrested 2 suspects as reactions follow the incident.
So far, we don't have an indication of who the author and the mastermind could be exactly. We cannot say it with a certainty. However, it is clearly an attack against the journalist and an attack against press freedom in Europe. We also think that journalists who might be targeted by organized crime must be protected. It's very important. And it is very important that this murder attempt does not have a chilling effect on Dutch journalists working on criminal affairs.
There's more on this story. This is the CCTV footage showing when the victim was fighting for his life after being shot on an Amsterdam street. We see him walking down the street wearing a grey suit moments before the attack, where the camera picked up the audio of gunshots. Police cordoned off the area of the shooting near the downtown Litsenplein Square, where they were collecting video footage, witness statements, and, of course, other forensic evidence. Other news now. The UK has reported at least 32,548 new cases of coronavirus today, the first time since January that the daily figure has been more than 30,000. It comes as the country prepares to loosen the restrictions even further later this month. Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who is being grilled by members of Parliament today, insists the vaccination program has severed the link between rising cases and deaths, despite his chief scientific advisor saying the relationship had been weakened rather than severed. Here's the global update.
Leader of the opposition, Keir Starmer.
There's more from the British Parliament as opposition leader Keir Starmer branded the COVID-19 Delta mutation the Johnson variant after the Prime Minister. Starmer quizzed Boris Johnson today over the government's plans to ease its lockdown restrictions later this month, despite projections of 100,000 coronavirus infections per day. Over in Malaysia, where people are struggling to cope with the lockdown, people hang scraps of white cloth outside their windows in a plea for help. For many neighborhoods, it's been the most effective, especially for people in vulnerable groups. Lockdown in Australia's New South Wales state has been extended as the state warns the new cases of COVID-19 are bound to rise as it grapples with the highly infectious Delta variant. Sydney is fighting its worst outbreak of the year, with another 27 COVID-19 cases reported today. Finally, tens of thousands of Brazilians are out of shelter as the country continues to grapple with the lingering COVID-19 pandemic. As the southern hemisphere is now in winter, the situation of those homeless is deteriorating with a declining temperature. The temperature now at night is as low as 14 degrees Celsius, with rains dripping for most of the time.
Well, the global pandemic really did many businesses in, especially in the year 2020. But things are starting to look up now that countries are easing up restrictions. The pandemic, however, was also an opportunity to think up great ideas, as Danuta Nganko shows in this next report.
At the dawn of the COVID-19 pandemic, many chefs saw it fit to hang up their aprons and wait for the storm to pass. Forced by the outbreak to abandon plans to open her own restaurant, Danuta Nganko, a Belgian-Congolese chef living in Senegal's capital, Dakar, settled instead on an even tastier endeavor to become the first country's gourmet chocolatier.
So when COVID started, then all my activities stopped. And I thought about, working with the product. And I thought, why not chocolate? I realized that there was a lack of professional chocolatier in Dakar. Like some people would do chocolate, but not only chocolate, and not in a very artisanal way. So I thought there was a lack in the market and I could just jump in it. and because I really loved, technical type of cooking, I thought it was for me.
Since then, Nganko has realized a new dream with the opening of Venco, Senegal's first and only artisan chocolate company. By fusing Belgian chocolate with locally sourced ingredients, Venco has quickly developed a reputation for blending unique flavors with stylish presentation, making Nganko's chocolate a coveted delicacy among Senegal's confectionery enthusiasts.
I worked with Belgian chocolate, but the idea is to take a very classical chocolate and work it with local flavors. So we worked a lot with Bissap, which is very well known here, but I also try to bring back to life flavor that maybe people forget a little bit about, like concoron, which is a nut that is almost disappearing. And I hope that moving forward, my work can go as well with helping to put those flavors a bit in fashion and maybe try to save some of those.
Named after a bakery established by Nganko's parents during her childhood, a fusion of the couple's last names, Venco has navigated the COVID-19 outbreak by leaning heavily into deliveries and catering for special events. While lacking the cocoa culture of other regional powerhouses like Ivory Coast and Ghana, Senegal's reputation for stability has made it an attractive destination for investors and entrepreneurs, including Nganko. But Nganko has her eyes set on a more ambitious goal than simply making ends meet. She wants to change the way Senegalese people regard chocolate entirely.
Now I think the next challenge will be to accustom Senegalese customer of buying chocolate on a day-to-day basis. Because they do now for dinner, for a gift, for a special occasion, but they are not yet to buy chocolate like, as something you have in your fridge and just take a bite. But we'll get there.
For now, she's pleasing chocolate lovers one bite at a time.
COVID-19 helping to birth new ideas. That's the program today. Thank you for watching. I'm Jackie Rogers.